Sacred Stones is often considered one of the easier Fire Emblem games. Even played on its most difficult mode, it doesn't offer much of a challenge to the player. This is mostly because of its easy early game. Fire Emblem games tend to be most difficult early on because you have less options in units and items. Mid to late game actually gets kind of difficult and has some fairly interesting chapters, but enemies just never really get that strong, making it hard to stop the player. Oh, and then of course there's Seth, who's one of the best units in Fire Emblem history because of how dominant he is in this game. I've done a challenge run in the past where I used units I consider to be bad, so no like Seth, Vanessa, Franz, etc., units like that. And it was pretty fun. There's a lot of really cool units in this game, but it really wasn't much of a challenge. For this playthrough, I got a really fun idea from a viewer, and that was to buff the enemies. They recommended a 20% buff to enemy growths, and I added a 5% extra buff to bosses. So would buffing the enemy stats like this really change the game that much? Well, the short answer is yes. As you would probably expect, buffing growths that much does in fact change the game. Unfortunately, this didn't really fix the ease of the early game because the growths didn't really affect the enemies that much at that point. Obviously, doing growths as opposed to something like a base stat buff means that it's going to compound over the playthrough. The early game units definitely felt stronger, maybe like +1 to all stats, and the bosses were definitely stronger, but it wasn't really enough to make it that much of a challenge, especially again with Seth always available. I do want to talk about Chapter 6. It's a Fog of War chapter that can actually be pretty difficult, even on just hard mode, normal Fire Emblem, Sacred Stones. But I used a very safe strategy of sending Seth to the middle fort and everybody else to the north, and cleared it with relative ease. I want to talk a little bit about strategy and respecting Fire Emblem games here. I don't really respect Sacred Stones very much when I play it, to be honest. But by that I mean, I have general strategies for chapters. Like, I know what's going to happen with reinforcements and side objectives, but generally, you don't really have to think much deeper when it comes to a game like Sacred Stones. Now, a game that I do respect a lot is Fire Emblem 6. I have much more defined strats for a lot of different chapters in Fire Emblem 6 because the game demands it of the player, or you will lose units or your entire playthrough. I do respect Chapter 6 in Sacred Stones, however. I used a really good safe strat and, again, cleared it with relative ease. But the early game lulled me, and by Chapter 9 I was still feeling very confident about the playthrough. Chapter 9 really should have been a wake-up call for me. I did Erica's route and encountered a promoted sniper that had very high stats. I always remember this guy being pretty tough to kill, even again just on vanilla hard mode. So I didn't really think much of it, but my units were really struggling at this point. I didn't want to early promote because I figured the stats in the end game would be really high. This would prove to probably be a mistake, as it often is when you don't early promote in difficult Fire Emblem games. This chapter still went well. I didn't lose any units in the end, but it really should have been a strong warning to respect the game more. So the next chapter is when the game really started to impose its will on me and forced me to respect it. There are 3 green units on this chapter, and you really want to recruit them. They're all fantastic units, but they aren't buffed like the enemies, and they start kind of walled off from you. So I decided to take this chapter kind of aggressively. I sent Seth out ahead, but unfortunately I misjudged the amount of damage the enemies had. When I did my calculations, I did it with the fighter's hand axe in mind. He also had a steel axe, unfortunately, and this ended up proving a bit too much for Seth. And here we have our first death. There would be many more to follow. For the rest of this video, what I'm going to do is mix my own commentary with a death compilation of all of the deaths throughout the playthrough. What am I looking at? I think, so Erica route, chapter 11, I think? No, chapter 10, because chapter 9 was the first one. All right, Innes talked to with Erica or Tin. Oh my god, he's dead! All right, my apologies, I must withdraw. Okay, so Seth wasn't fine, as it turns out. Well, that's a pretty big blow. Well, shit. I don't care about you anymore, okay? Jesus Christ. No, man, I don't want Archer to die. I thought there was a pretty good chance. Oh, it's because he gets doubled. Oh, my bad. All right, well then this was just terrible. The rest is up to you. I should have rescued him. Yeah. But okay, well, rip. The Dark Rider I foresaw, he was coming for me. Wait, what? What is she talking about? The Dark Rider I foresaw, he is coming for me. Jesus Christ. Okay. No. All right, this is getting bad. Prince Ephraim, lead us to glory. Prince Ephraim in here, Kyle. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. No. Is this a game over? Did I lose? I won't give up. Not here. Not in this place. I will keep going, even if I have to crawl. Well, it's not making the noise. Okay. All right. I guess we're good. I guess we're okay. Jesus Christ. Chapter 14. Okay, that's not too bad. Bye, Mulder. Sorry, I believe this is as far as I can go. That was my bad, Mulder. I'll take responsibility for that one. That was just really dumb on my part. Sorry, Ross. I'm a warrior to the very end. I should probably update this death counter, huh? So Ross. So that chapter kicked my ass, as you can probably pretty plainly see. It was a combination of not really respecting the chapter particularly well, and honestly just really bad play from me. Some of the deaths, like Mulder and like Ross in particular, were just huge mistakes on my part. Luckily, the next chapter is actually one of the biggest reasons to not go F-frame route, because you don't have to do Phantom Ship, you get to do the Erica equivalent, which is a pretty easy chapter. So I thought this chapter was going to go pretty well. Unfortunately, I was pretty wrong about that. You know what? If you're not going to get defense when I ask it, getting literally every single other stat is okay. Oh, wait. Did I do math horribly wrong here? Wait, why did I think Tana could survive this? Did I just lose my mind? Oh my god. Okay, I have no clue why I thought Tana could survive that. That was just completely unreasonable. I just did math so wrong there. Oh, I didn't. I have no regrets. This is always my fate. Why didn't I move Garcia? Literally no one knows. Literally no one knows. How strong is this guy? Oh my fucking god! What am I looking at? What is that? Holy shit. I wasn't expecting that. I'll be straight up. I wasn't expecting to see that. Yeah, it was a good miss. Maybe she can stay alive. It seems like the gargoyles are moving first. You think he can survive? Bye, Gilliam. I was prepared for anything. Damn, that Nemi miss was so bad. I should have just used the iron bow. It was so much more consistent. All right, this is good. I find it hard to say it, but I must beg your leave. Sorry, La Rochelle. Okay, Nemi, I need you to hit this. Okay, we're good. 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 And a sick level up. What a beast. My goat. Yeah, that's a bummer, but it's not really that important. It was fun while it lasted. Now, actually, that's slightly annoying because it means that Franz is going to have to pick up Dazla for the rest of the chapter, but that's okay. Yeah, so this chapter didn't go particularly well. I'm gonna sound like a broken record probably for a while now of this chapter didn't go particularly well, but it really didn't. The Death Gargoyle having those high of stats just really threw me for a loop. Didn't expect him to be quite so strong. Promoted enemies in this game with the buffed growth were really strong, and we'll be seeing that more and more. A lot of the deaths in this chapter were definitely my mistake. One of the nice things is, even with La Rochelle's death, because I rescued Dazla, and he dodged, I think he dodged like a couple of hits from the Death Gargoyle not to die. We actually got to recruit him, which was kind of cool, because Dazla's a reasonable unit, a nice pre-promote for our army, unlike Garrick from the previous chapter, who did die, but we didn't get to recruit him. Now, the next chapter, again, broken record, pretty easy one. This one actually was easy, though. Nobody died in this chapter. I know this is going to be a rarity, but nobody died. In fact, I used this very much as a training arc. We promoted a bunch of units, including Loot, Franz, Nemi, a lot of our stronger units that I was looking to promote. We even got Ewan, who I got to a shaman on this chapter. So this chapter actually went really well, and I'm not going to linger too much on it because there were no deaths. The chapter after that, on the other hand, is Hamble Canyon, and this one concerned me a lot. This is one of those Sacred Stones chapters that, because the stats in vanilla hard mode are just so weak, you can just do whatever you want. But when the stats are really, really high, it's actually a pretty difficult chapter to do because you end up getting attacked from the front, and then eventually Pablo's going to show up with reinforcements from the back. So you end up kind of in this squeeze. Initially, I was thinking, like I normally do, I would just push and kill the boss, recruit Cormeg, get out of here. The problem was there were these rangers around the boss that had really strong stats, and nobody, even our newly promoted units, could really handle these guys particularly well. So this ended up putting me in a pretty bad situation because I had aggroed these rangers that I didn't need to aggro, and we couldn't kill the boss anyway, so it was just pointless. It was definitely tough. The chapter didn't go too poorly, but the end of the chapter, also a big misplay on my part, because I really wanted to kill Pablo. Basically, we ended up getting Pablo into a loop where he was just using his physic staff, as opposed to purging or attacking with divine. But on the last turn, I really wanted to kill him, even though it was unnecessary, and it ended up being an absolute nightmare of a last turn. No, God. That was fucking dumb. That was really stupid. I don't want to die here. I'm sorry, Loot. Damn it. I just fucked that up. I forgot I was in that guy's range. Oh, hi, Pablo. Okay. So, okay, sorry, Amelia. I did well, didn't I? Not really. Okay, this is good. Hopefully this misses. Okay, if Calm dies, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, I mean, he got a point of defense. What does he have to do? He has to dodge, like, one more? Shit. Bye, Calm. This place, Nemi. So he has to dodge, like, one of these two, maybe? Oh! Oh! And there's the bad one. You're right, Calm. I'm a klutz. Sorry. On the plus side, I think Cormeg lives now. Oh, she's probably dead. Wow, this last turn went hard. So this probably goes without saying, but that chapter didn't go particularly well. Again, there were definitely some mistakes on my part. Losing both Loot and Nemi right after promoting them was really unfortunate. Franz is my only promoted unit at this point. We did have Salad and Dazla, who are both reasonable pre-promotes, but at this point I was starting to run out of characters. I was still training Cormeg, Iwan, and Joshua, but yeah, Franz is really my only super strong unit. The next chapter is Queen of White Dunes, which is a cool chapter name, and also a pretty easy chapter most of the time. I made two huge mistakes in this chapter, as you can probably guess. The first one is recruiting Renak. Normally you want to do this with La Rochelle, because you don't have to pay any money, and La Rochelle has the movement to catch up with Renak. But I decided to use the strategy I normally use, which is just trying to recruit Renak on the right side, which doesn't work as well when the enemies are tougher and you're working with Erica, who has much less movement. So I ended up basically skirting Franz across the middle of the map to try to cut off Renak before he got to the stairs, which ended up leading us into a very bad spot. So that was mistake number one. Mistake number two involves the Berserk staff on this chapter. I did not have access to Restore at this point. And the problem with my assessment of the Berserk staff was when you looked at the range, because there was a knight standing at the end of the cleric range with Berserk, it looked like the range was one less than it actually was. And so I ended up getting Dazla Berserked, which is kind of fitting considering he is a Berserker. But this led to another huge blow. So enjoy. Okay, I want one of, if both of these hit, this is bad. I need one of these to miss. Franz. See, now the sniper can kill him. No. Dude, oh, that's so sad. That's so, fuck. That's such a bummer. That was the least hit that I could give him. Oh, why did you hit 259s? Can't hit an 80, but hits 259s in a row. This fucking guy. With Cormac. Okay. Alright, this works. Does Cormac need to do anything? I guess you're probably better being slightly more up here. Okay. Oh, he has a Sword Slayer. I forgot he had the Sword Slayer. Oh, nuts to me. I forgot I gave him the Sword Slayer. So now we're really dead. Forgot guy flashbacks. The Sword Slayer is the bane of my sword masters, apparently. So at this point, I had 2 units that I was really excited about. Those being Franz, who, as I said, was promoted, and Joshua, who I promoted on this chapter. And both died, of course. At this point, I genuinely thought the run was over. A lot of the people in my chat had been saying for a while that the run was over. We obviously had a ton of deaths. But yeah, I just didn't really have any promoted units. Like, we still had Salad, who, like I said, was still being a beast. In fact, I used Salad to, like, chip down the boss of this chapter. Boss killing, by the way, became a huge headache. We had to, in certain situations, like, get the bosses to use all their weapon hits because our team was just so weak. We still had Dazla. Hypothetically, we could still promote Cormeg. We were going to get Ephraim on the next chapter. There was a chance, but at this point, I began to sort of believe, as chat had, that the playthrough was scuffed. The next chapter is Scorched Sand, which isn't too bad of a chapter, but keep saying about these chapters, and they keep kicking my ass. To be honest, it didn't actually go that poorly. I still did lose a character because I made a mistake, as you can probably guess. But as far as the chapter was concerned, it actually went pretty smoothly, all things considered. I think Daza could die here because he'll get doubled here. Oh shit! All right, that was really dumb on my part. I could have asked for a better ending. Dazla, I think you could have asked for a better ending. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot that Sword Slayer would give Weapon Triangle to the Javelin. After completing Scorched Sand, I was actually feeling a little bit more hopeful about the playthrough, to be honest. I had promoted Cormeg. I was looking pretty strong. We had a really nice magic core, actually. My Natasha was promoted. I early promoted E1. We had E1 and Noel both summoning, which summoning is really powerful in this game. And then Salad was still being a beast. Along with that, we had Ephraim, who's really strong, although he wouldn't promote until the end of this next chapter. And Dusela was offering some decent combat. So despite the fact that our team was very small and there was only 2 units left to recruit in the entire game, I was actually feeling, like I said, reasonably hopeful. And we were about to recruit Myrrh. And Myrrh can be a really strong unit. I wasn't really sure how she would do on buffed growths like this, but I figured if I could put some effort into her, she'd be all right. You can probably guess what happened to Myrrh. The next chapter is the Orson chapter. This one, in my mind, didn't seem too bad because you can take it pretty slow and there's a lot of chokes to work with. Part of the problem with this chapter ended up being that I got sort of sandwiched in between the Great Knights that spawned from the back and the enemies from the front. I thought handling the Great Knights would actually be pretty easy because we had a lot of magic users on our team, but they actually ended up being pretty fast and it was hard to double them. Even though I thought our magic users were pretty fast themselves, but obviously not fast enough. Another issue was that the warriors and druids from the boss sort of mixed together, and I ended up really struggling to find consistent combat that could take on both the druids and the warriors. Luna isn't as strong in this game, obviously, as it is in Fire Emblem 7, but it's still a pretty tough thing to deal with and can absolutely destroy your mages. So all in all, this chapter went fine. I mostly just turtled, but it was pretty scary, and of course, as you can guess, we had a death. That is a good point, though. Okay, this means he wouldn't have healed. Did you just miss an 87? You know what? Die. I'm sorry, I can't help you any longer. I lost her so fast. Just recruited her, immediately dies. The next chapter is River of Regrets, another really cool chapter. There's a lot of really cool chapter names in this game, to be honest. I didn't think this chapter was going to be too bad. Usually it's not too difficult. And I thought even on this, it wouldn't be the most difficult thing, mostly because there are some chokes that you can work with. I made, I would say, one pretty big error. I could have made this chapter a bit easier had I done something else. I wanted to recruit Cyrene. Now, Cyrene is the last recruitable unit in the entire game. She's not particularly strong, but one of the chapters that I was really worried about going forward was the Gorgon Egg chapter, because we didn't have that many units. And I thought Cyrene's ability to fly and potentially push eggs would be really valuable in that chapter. I wasn't sure how difficult that chapter was going to be. So I really wanted to protect Cyrene. To do this, I went and picked her up with Cormeg. Now, this isn't a terrible idea. The problem that I ended up facing was the wyverns that spawn out of the top left ended up basically mixing, kind of like the warriors in the previous chapter, with the druids that spawn around the boss. And I ended up having to fight them all at once. This combined with the heroes that come from across the water where you spawn and the choke to the north of where you spawn meant there was a lot of units all in my face at once. And using chokes was really difficult because the wyverns could just fly around them, and the druids all had like Luna and just like Nosferatu and powerful magic. So this was definitely bad on my part. I think if I did this again, I would probably have Cormeg go up and try to distract the wyverns, so that way I just fight the druids, and I think that would make it a lot easier. Cyrene, well, as you're going to see very quickly, ended up dying anyway, so it didn't matter. There were a few deaths in this chapter. Yeah, this one surprised me by how difficult it was. We ended up in a really awkward spot. I almost lost the run, to be honest. Yeah, just a lot of units all at once in my face. Maybe I should have. Maybe I could have kept her alive. Maybe I should have picked her up with Dusel, because Dusel could probably survive here. I don't know, because she will. She will definitely die now. Yeah, I could have maybe kept her alive. I don't know. So this is the end, Vanessa. Yeah, unfortunately, Cyrene. Yeah, I could have maybe picked her, like kept picking her up with Dusel. So this hit's gonna be pretty bad. Yeah, and I shouldn't get doubled or anything. E1's actually really fast. And the longer Dusel survives, the longer we get his support. Okay, yeah, I definitely get doubled here, so I definitely just die here. Which really sucks, but, you know, it is what it is. Sorry, Noel. In this darkness, I will find peace. I hope you do, buddy. Okay, we're still attacking Dusel. Dusel just kills this guy. Dude, Dusel will die here, don't get me wrong, but he is fucking hanging in there. I mean, he's doing some work. Dude, he's killing so many units. This is amazing. Tankness. Dude, Dusel is, oh my goodness. Yeah, this is outstanding what he's doing right now. Now, Ephraim could still definitely die here. Oh. But it's going to take some pretty rough stuff for him to die. This is nothing. Dusel, I don't think that's true. Obsidian. Believe it or not, Dusel's death marks the last death of the entire playthrough. So unfortunately, I can't tell this story through a death compilation anymore because there are no more deaths. At this point, we only had 6 units left, so it's a good thing we didn't lose anybody else because there aren't a lot of units left to lose. Those units were Erica, Ephraim, Salad, Natasha, Ewan, and Cormeg. Now, the stats I'm showing here are their post-game stats, so they weren't quite this strong at the time of River of Regrets, which is where we are in the story at the moment. But just know that they were pretty darn strong, and again, this was my team. One of the really nice things about this team was that it was very magic focused. So as far as like healing was concerned, we didn't have to worry too much about that. And Cormeg and Ephraim in particular, did a really good job of giving me like a physical attacker, physical like defender that could actually like push things, because our our mage team was quite frail at this point. The next chapter features some really strong Gorgons with eggs hatching around the map. This is a chapter that does concern me a bit because the Gorgons have really high magic, and there's like shadow shot and stone and stuff here that are very scary. I gave Erica the boots at this point, mostly for this chapter after this, but I figured they could work here as well, and I was going to give her give the boots to her no matter what, because she could push the eggs really fast. Cormeg also did a great job here of handling the eggs to the south. Again, this is what I wanted Cyrene for, to kind of help push the eggs, but we ended up doing a fine job with our other 5 units going north and then Cormeg going to the south. With the barrier staff, he was able to sneak down there and handle basically everything himself, which is really nice. The Gorgons here, as I said, are really strong, especially with Shadow Shot and Stone, and there were some awkward moments with eggs potentially hatching, especially in the top left corner, but we were able to get through it, and again, no deaths on this chapter. The next chapter is a defend chapter, which are normally some of the easiest in the series, but this chapter concerned me a bit because there's a lot of openings to the throne. Normally in defend chapters, you want to just put unequipped units in choke points and heal them, and you can pretty much cheese the chapter that way. But it was a combination of a lot of openings to the throne and us not having a lot of units. I figured there was a way we could potentially do it, but now what I didn't know about this chapter, because I've never actually like had to think about it in any meaningful way, is that the game over condition regarding this chapter is Mansell not dying, not the enemy seizing the throne. And this is really important because it means Mansell can be anywhere on the map, and as long as he doesn't die, you don't lose the chapter. You don't have to worry about the throne at all. Normally what I do in this chapter is just push the boss, Reeve in the bottom left corner, but I figured with the enemies being buffed and us not having a lot of units to work with, this was going to be really difficult. But the great thing is, even though where Mansell starts, there is a lot of openings, there are multiple different little rooms with one-tile chokes that you can bring Mansell to. My plan was to bring him to the top left, which is what we did. Again, I gave Erica the boots specifically for this chapter, just to make it a little bit more efficient. I wasn't really sure how easy it was going to be to get him there, because again, I've never done it before. In retrospect, I probably didn't need the boots, but I used them, so why not? And then, yeah, it was really easy to just choke that point. Mansell himself actually ended up doing it. What a beast. Love Mansell, and we were on to the next chapter. The penultimate chapter of Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones is Darkling Woods. It's a large map with a ton of starting enemies and a ton of reinforcements. They really like doing this on Fire Emblem. They do this in a lot of the GBA games, have these like penultimate chapters or close to penultimate chapters with just a ton of enemies. And that's basically what Darkling Woods is. At this point, our team was pretty darn strong and good against fighting monsters. We had a decent amount of legendary weapons, which we could use in a pinch. And Natasha. Natasha was a beast at this point. She'd basically just been, a healer who could deal a little bit of damage up until this point. But bishops are quite good in the end game here because they get the Slayer skill, which just gives all their light magic effective damage against monsters, which again is all you're fighting at this point. So really, really strong. I think Natasha is actually the only unit that capped at level 20, like as a promoted unit, mostly because of just how much I used her in the end game here. She was so powerful. I've never really used Natasha in this way. Natasha's not a particularly strong unit in this game, but she was great here. She was great here. Yeah, she dominated the end game for sure. This chapter was a slog. We even ended up unequipping Erica and Ephraim and kind of getting the chapter to its unit limit just to make it a little bit faster. But honestly, because you can manipulate chokes and there's really no like time sensitive stuff on this chapter, you can take it at your own pace. It's a pretty easy chapter, and we were able to get through it without losing anybody. The final chapter of Sacred Stones is not particularly difficult. It's a two-part chapter. The first part just has you fight some monsters and then kill Lion, or defeat Lion, I should say, who isn't particularly strong. And then the second part has you fight the Demon King. Now, the second part did concern me a little bit. The Demon King's an interesting final boss. He's usually pretty easy, because unlike, let's say, the Dragon from Fire Emblem 7, you can hit him effectively with all the legendary weapons. So it's pretty easy to kill him within the first couple of turns. But he does do some pretty scary stuff. He has the ability to like put people to sleep. He has the ability to summon. So if the chapter goes on too long, I've frankly never seen it. So I don't know what happens. I feel like it can get really scary, but I'm not really sure. But we got pretty lucky because the way that the units were stronger in this game, if you remember correctly, was we buffed the growths. And that didn't really seem to change some of the late game bosses that much. Like Morva was about the same. The Demon King was about the same. I think Lion was about the same. I think the 5% buff that I gave to bosses did change them a touch, but they were about as strong as they were in vanilla, which was nice because, again, I'm not really sure what the Demon King does if he doesn't die on like the first 2 turns. Thankfully, we were able to kill him very quickly, and I actually got through Ephraim the fastest final boss kill I've ever had in Sacred Stones. So I don't know if that's a fitting way to end this playthrough or not a fitting way, but it certainly happened, and we completed the game. That much. Yeah, he has 82 now. We could crit. There is crit here. Oh, it's a crit! That's just death! That's just straight up death! That's just straight up death! Let's go, baby! Let's go! We took no damage! We took no damage. I don't need that shit. Get the fuck out of my game, Demon King. I don't need that. Wow. Turn 1. I only need 2 characters to kill that motherfucker. GG's. GG's indeed. Makes that buff his growth some more. No damage, Demon King indeed. Oh my god. And that was it. Our run seemed to over at multiple points, somehow pulled through in the end. I don't know if this is the most units I've ever lost in an Iron Man, because there's games like Fire Emblem 6 where there's a really big cast, and I've had playthroughs that have lost a lot of that. But as far as percentage of the cast goes, I think this might almost definitely be the highest, because we lost almost everyone, but we pulled through, which was cool. I really love this playthrough. I had a ton of fun doing it. I'll definitely be buffing Sacred Stones in the future, probably every time I play it, to be honest. I wouldn't even mind pushing it a little bit further and seeing, what I can do. And I'll definitely respect the game more than I have in the past, that's for sure. I have a ton of nostalgia for Sacred Stones, one of my favorite Fire Emblem games. But hard mode Iron Mans have always kind of bored me. There's some fun units and there's some fun chapters, but for the most part, the enemies are just too weak to make it that interesting. But this buff made it really interesting and in a very good way, at least for my purposes. So yeah. And finally, if you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you very much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making it and again doing this run, and I will see you next time.